What if the best defender Michael Jordan ever faced isn't even a well-known name? Crazy, right? Let's talk about Sidney Moncrief, a player who did it all, 5-time All-Star, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, and still somehow flies under the radar. Did you know he's the only guard in NBA history to win DPOY twice? Or that Jerry West almost picked him over Magic Johnson in the 1979 draft? So why isn't Moncrief celebrated like other 80s legends? Was it injuries or a small market? Just bad timing? Stick around, because we're finding out why Moncrief may be the most overlooked star ever. And if you're into forgotten greatness, subscribe. You won't want to miss what's next. Let's get started. Are you ready? When we talk about the greatest NBA players of all time, names like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and LeBron James come up right away. But let's flip the script. What about the guys who were just as impactful but barely mentioned? What about the players who didn't get the championships, the national attention, or the flashy highlight reels? Ask yourself this: how many all-time greats do you know who never even made an NBA Finals, let alone won one? And if a player didn't have a long career or wasn't a highlight machine, does that make him any less legendary? Sidney Moncrief, a name that might not ring a bell for casual fans, but for those who know the game, he was a force. He didn't play in a major market, he didn't win a ring, and he wasn't a scoring champion. But Moncrief was everything a coach could ask for, and maybe even more. So why has he been forgotten by history? Let's look into the career of Sidney Moncrief, a defensive titan, an offensive threat, and arguably the most underrated player in NBA history. Just a quick one. When you think of the best teams to never win an NBA title, who comes to mind? The 2000s Kings or the 90s Jazz? Well, what about the Milwaukee Bucks of the 1980s? Not many fans bring them up, but they absolutely should. After the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar era ended, Milwaukee turned the page and built a new contender. Led by Sidney Moncrief and supported by players like Marcus Johnson, Terry Cummings, and Paul Pressey, the Bucks became one of the decade's most consistent and toughest teams. And guess what? They had the third best winning percentage in the entire NBA during the 80s, only behind the Lakers and Celtics. Yet, they never made it to the finals. Why? Because they ran into dynasties. Bird's Celtics, Irving's 76ers, and later, the rise of Jordan's Bulls. But despite the losses, Milwaukee was elite, and at the center of it all was Moncrief, the two-way anchor. Without the noticeable market or bold numbers, it's easy to overlook what this team achieved. But any real fan of the game knows they were a problem for every opponent. So how good was the guy leading them? Let's talk about Sidney Moncrief's rise. Let's take it back to the beginning. Sidney Moncrief was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and played college basketball at the University of Arkansas. Sound familiar? It should. Moncrief helped revive that entire program, leading them to a Final Four appearance in 1978. That kind of leadership got attention. Jerry West considered drafting him #1 overall instead of Magic Johnson in 1979. Take a moment with that. Moncrief ended up being picked 5th by the Milwaukee Bucks, and his rookie year showed promise. But it was in the 1981-82 season that everything changed. Moncrief became a starter, and from there, his game exploded. He averaged nearly 20 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, and made his first All-Star appearance. But more importantly, he showed he could do it all: score, pass, defend, rebound. Over the next few years, Moncrief continued to dominate. He made 5 straight All-Star appearances, earned All-NBA honors, and won back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards, the first 2 ever given out. And get this, he's still the only guard in NBA history to win the award more than once. Why isn't this talked about more? We hope you're enjoying it. If so, then subscribe and hit the bell now for more updates. Let's be real, defense doesn't sell like offense. Fans love dunks, deep threes, and highlight reels. But Moncrief? He was the guy making sure your favorite scorer had an off night. Standing just 6 feet 3 inches, Moncrief wasn't your typical lockdown defender. But what he lacked in height, he made up in strength, speed, and relentless energy. He'd body up bigger guards in the post, chase down shooters off screens, and never stop moving his feet. And don't just take our word for it. Michael Jordan once said, "When you play against Moncrief, you're in for a night of all-around basketball. He'll hound you everywhere." That's MJ, arguably the greatest of all time, saying that. But here's the issue. Elite perimeter defense doesn't get love. Big men blocking shots? That's on every highlight reel. But the guard locking down the perimeter? That's invisible to most casual fans. And for Moncrief, that meant his brilliance went underappreciated. Even though he was the defensive anchor of one of the best defenses of the 80s, he was never treated like a superstar. Isn't it time we change that? So, what held Moncrief back from reaching legendary status? First, injuries. By the time he hit his early 30s, knee and foot issues began to take their toll. His production dropped off steeply, and he retired at just 32 years old. far too early for a player of his caliber. Second, he played for Milwaukee, a small market team, no national spotlight, no major media push. If Moncrief had done what he did in New York or LA, he'd be a household name today. Third, and maybe most importantly, timing. The 1980s were packed with legends: Magic, Bird, Dr. J, Isaiah Thomas, and eventually Michael Jordan. Moncrief's prime just happened to land right in the middle of all that. And unlike the others, he never made the finals, which is a big mark on how legacies are remembered. But here's the thing, he still did enough to make the Hall of Fame. He still made 5 All-Star teams. He still won 2 DPOYs, and he still helped his team win. A lot. So, is it fair to leave him out of the conversation? Here's the bottom line. Sidney Moncrief did everything. He could guard any perimeter player, score from mid-range, attack the basket, and even play make when needed. He wasn't flashy, but he was fundamentally perfect. He was the kind of player who made winning plays every night. Coaches loved him, teammates respected him, opponents dreaded him. Yet somehow, the average fan still doesn't know his name. Is it because he didn't win a title? Is it because he wasn't on SportsCenter every night? Or is it simply that we overlook players who thrive on defense? Whatever the reason, it's time to set the record straight. Sidney Moncrief is the most underrated player in NBA history. Let's give him the respect he's always deserved, remember his greatness, and celebrate a player who changed the game quietly but effectively. So next time someone asks you about underrated NBA players, don't hesitate. Say Sidney Moncrief, loudly, proudly, and with all the respect he earned. Sidney Moncrief didn't need the spotlight to shine. He earned greatness through grit, skill, and unmatched two-way dominance. While others grabbed headlines, Moncrief quietly built a Hall of Fame legacy, locking down legends and lifting his team night after night. It's time we remember the names that history forgets, and Moncrief should be at the top of that list. If you believe in honoring overlooked greatness, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and drop a comment below. Where does Sidney Moncrief rank on your list of NBA defenders? Let's keep this conversation alive.